Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Divine Feminine Healers podcast. As your host, Angelica, spiritual entrepreneur and intuitive healer. This week on the podcast, I want to talk about all this fresh and electric energy that we come into with the new year. I love it. I think that it's so magnetic. And specifically this year of January, I think that things can start moving really fast and we're able to really get through obstacles and stay clear and on track for our goals. But I also know that all this energy eventually dwindles. There's that statistic that 80% of people who start their goals in January fall off around mid February. And so, from the Ayurvedic perspective, I want to break down why does this happen? Why do we get so gun ho and we get on such a good track for our goals, and then come mid February, it feels like everything's kind of falling apart, and then we're back where we started? It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you are not able to reach that potential or get that thing that you want. It's simply by just understanding who you are and understanding more so the energetics behind it. So I'm going to go into all of that today. And we just had our manifestation and goal setting workshop on Thursday. It's recorded. So if you put your email down with the link in the show notes, you can still receive that recording if you want some more guidance and setting your visions and getting very clear on what your intentions are for the year ahead. I love getting super spiritual and esoteric as well as making it super granular so that you have an actual plan and take action throughout the year. So I have trackers and I guide you through my step-by-step process on how to manifest. So you can sign up with the link in the show notes. Okay, so what is the first issue that I usually see with why people can't follow through with their visions for the year? And I'm just going to speak to a lot of my own mistakes with manifestation and what I've seen with my clients. So the first one for me, this is for like the people who just started coming into this spiritual world and they're so excited, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and they're like, oh my God, I could just think it and then it magically appears. I can create this beautiful vision board and then all of a sudden it comes into fruition that next year. And it's what a fun idea. And there's some truth to that, right? Our beliefs definitely shape our behaviors, which shapes our reality. What we think, we see, we believe, we become. All that is so important. But when I first did this, and I did so many vision boards, and then I looked at it the year after, I was like, dang, I didn't really do any of those things this year. Maybe a couple things slipped in, but what the heck? Like, why am I behind on my goals? Why am I feeling like I'm not, quote unquote, manifesting my dreams and my desires? What I was missing in that beginning part of manifesting was really reflecting on my past, on my lessons, on the karmic cycles that I was breaking, and what was I taking with me in the year ahead, and what was I deciding and choosing to leave behind? And this is one of the most uncomfortable steps that doesn't get talked about in manifestation because it's very not glitzy, it's very uncomfortable. And we as humans just naturally, it's in our nature to just go away from pain. Once you have that awareness that this is pain and it can actually be really good for you and fruitful when you push through it, or rather expand into it, then you get to see all the fruits come up. So this was a lesson I think a lot of us learned last year. I was talking with my community members in our new moon ceremony this week, and across the board, it was cool to see all the themes that people had learned from in 2023. And a huge one was that, like, you really had to go through the mud. It wasn't just like taking a yoga class and doing a breath work. It's really like, what is it that's going to help me to feel and to be in this place of discomfort right now? What is really going to transform it? Like on the outside, it may look good and say, oh yeah, I have this yoga practice or I meditate every day, but is that the thing that's actually getting me to a place of transformation and a place of integrity for who I am? It's a much more depth level. And the first step of doing that is really reflection on what did not work. And I know for myself, I was so avoiding for this. And it's especially important if you're an entrepreneur because that's how you learn from your mistakes time and time and again. But it felt so uncomfortable to admit that to myself that I had made mistakes because I felt like I was wrong. And that humiliation and that shame felt so heavy to hold that it was almost unbearable that I just wanted to push it away and I wanted to go on to the next thing and not think about it. And that's definitely been a common theme in my life of just avoiding and then running on to the next thing so I don't have to think about the pain and where I need to hold myself accountable and responsible. And the reason why it feels so hard is because that is a version of yourself you have not been able to find compassion for yet. You have not learned to love yet. In fact, you have somehow just wrote that off as being shameful, disgusting, and you never want to see it again. But once you can find that level of depth of how can I really understand why I made those decisions and how I came to be, it's never because you were lazy. It's never because you're a mean or a cruel person. There's always a deeper message behind it. I've learned this also with working with children recently of when you are working with a child and it feels like their emotions are so big and heightened, they even say things that are so triggering and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to teach them that is wrong. You cannot say those things. There's always a deeper reason why that child is acting the way that they are. And there's such an innocence with child that you have to realize that their emotions and their behaviors and their beliefs are all coming from this place where they're afraid to really express themselves and really not even knowing how to express themselves. And of course, as adults, a lot of times we have not had the resources until very recently to really distinguish between what these emotions are and how it's okay to have them and to really allow that. So I've been taking about this past month or so to really reflect on what these lessons were and allowing them to really reveal themselves to me. Which ones I've really complete. I've closed out those chapters and I can really celebrate myself in. And then which are the lessons where I feel like I'm still kind of in the process of learning. These may be deeper karmic cycles where every single year I kind of unfold a new layer with them. Those are kind of the ones that stay with you for a really long time. And getting really specific on, okay, what are those belief systems? What are those thematic habits that I can bring awareness to and that I can shift? And for a lot of us, the more specific you can get here, of like literally, I know if I don't wake up at this time every day, then it's a domino effect of what happens. Like the more specific you can get on what those habits and behaviors are, the more you can really heal and show up for yourself. So I hear this also a lot too in the spiritual world where it's like, I'm not enough is a very common one, or I need to help others before helping myself, or my worth is in my work. Like these are very common themes that we hear so often, but get even more specific. What does that mean? Very personal to you and your healing journey and your entrepreneurial journey. And just taking this pause is so important to really reflect. Again, there's so much forward energy specifically happening right now because all planets are out of retrograde and we're very excited in the month of January. But without that pause and seeing what you are leaving behind and what you are taking with you, it's going to feel like groundhog's day again if you are just cycling through those same behaviors, and it's going to feel like a hamster wheel and you're just getting nowhere. So take the time first to pause and reflect on what didn't work before you set visions for what the year ahead. So for example, you may have manifested something, you're like, oh, you know what, that wasn't actually it. I didn't really want that thing. Once it came to me, I was like, that wasn't really it. So now you understand, okay, there's a deeper level for that thing that I really want, and I can get to the heart of the desire. Now, number two of why I see people not being as successful with their goals is that everyone tries to take the same approach. We see this in media all the time of, I think right now it's called like the hard 75, something like that. It's like no alcohol, you got to work out 2 hours a day, um, all these strict rules. And then if you miss one day or if you mess up, then you have to start all the way from the beginning. And all these diets, even like a Whole30, like we're trying to put a blanket and say that everyone deserves the same type of medicine. When in Ayurveda, we know that each person is so unique. You deserve your own way to go about your visions and your goals. How you're going to actually set their goals, what specific goals you want to work on is completely different than everyone else. Of course, we have very similar themes. A lot of people want to feel healthy in their bodies. A lot of people want to grow their business. These things I understand can be the same, but there's so much nuance that we're missing here of really what is that desire behind these things that we really want. And then, of course, it's how we're able to conquer obstacles when we are faced with them, because this part I think could be like, if I were to flag anything of what I say today, I think this is the most important and that I see, because in January we're just running off of like adrenaline, high vibes, everyone's on the same page, but we're not really up against any conflict yet. We haven't really gotten the challenges thrown at us yet. It feels easeful because it's exciting and we're able to run on that. But what happens when you wake up and you're sick? What happens when you wake up and you're just not feeling motivated? What happens when you wake up and someone tries to cancel you and someone tries to beat down that creative project that you put out into the world? You need to prepare yourself for when these obstacles occur, and it's different for each person. So, knowing how you react to different obstacles and what kind of support you need to get you through that is the most important part. You can have the best action plan in place, but as we know, the universe is going to do its thing and we got to flow with the universe. So if we're just rigid and thinking with the logistical mind and saying, I just got to keep on track and make sure that I'm completing my to do list every day, we are not taking into consideration that we are in co creation with the universe and that things are going to bend and move and wave. And we need to move and wave with the universe. But sometimes for a lot of us, it can feel really hard to have that level of surrender and to let go. So I'm going to break down three the three main energy types in Ayurveda and how you can customize your visions and goals based on your dosha. Now, I'm going to go way more into detail into this in the manifestation and goal setting workshop, so definitely sign up for that if you want more support here. But I'm just going to start with a few recommendations for each energy type just to give you some groundwork to lay. If you're just kind of dipping your toes in, you're just going to take some time to set goals. If you listen to nothing else, then listen to this, and I hope this helps you. So there's three main energy types in Ayurveda. I actually have an Ayurvedic Energy Type Quiz, which is linked in the show notes that you may take. Very simple, very small. This isn't the end all be all, but it'll give you more information on what your main Ayurvedic dosha type is. Don't quote me. If you really want an exact answer for what your Ayurvedic energy type is, go to a certified Ayurvedic practitioner who can actually work through basically a 2-hour consult and give you that information. But if you're just like wanting to have fun and take a quiz like I like to do, go ahead and take it. Then when you come back, I'm going to break it down by the 3 different energy types. So for the first energy type, we have the Kapha Dosha. Now, Kapha Dosha, when it comes to goals and visions, they can have the most difficulty getting started. That's because Kapha is an earth and water sign. These are the heaviest signs and the most fixed signs. Yes, it's related to astrology. So if you can imagine, like the Capricorns and the Taurus, it's difficult for you to get started because you love to stay where you're at. That feels like home. That feels comfortable. Exactly. A lot of earth signs like to be at home, their home bodies. They don't like change because that feels not safe to them. So, of course, when you're inviting a whole new routines and habits, it's going to feel uncomfortable because you're not only changing your lifestyle practice, but the ego knows that it's about to evolve and change too, that you're going to have to shed away an identity and step into the other. And it can feel the most fearful for kappas because it's so beyond their true nature of who they are. So this doesn't mean that kappas aren't able to make those changes. They actually thrive when they actually make it. It's just in the beginning that can get really difficult for kappas to get started. So what I love recommending for kappas is to really refine what their goals are for themselves and make it work for them. So a lot of times, for example, kappas, because they need to find more movement in their body and it's in their nature to just kind of find more static pauses throughout the day, I guess you could say. They don't necessarily always have a workout regime. That's often their goal in the beginning of the year. Now, if they think that they need to start running, or if they think they need to take a HIIT class because that's what other people are doing, it is not going to work for them. They need to find what feels good in their body and what they're excited to do. Of course, movement, we're not always excited to work out in the morning, but something that inspires them that they actually want to be doing based on them and not other people is huge. And for kappas, the best thing that they can do, what really motivates them, is having a support team. They're big-hearted people. They love doing things with their people. And I've had so many kappas in different programs and cleanse programs that I've done, and I love having them in there because they're the most active and they love to help everyone out. So they're always like very active in the community chat, cheering everyone on, patting people on the back because they know that they need that too. They need that friend in the morning to text them, say, hey, let's go to this workout class today. And they're like, bam, I'm going to get out of bed because I have my friend who's going to do it with me and they're going to hold me accountable. So kappas, if you have a friend that can hold you accountable, that can go along this goal with you, or even if you just ask them, hey, I'm wanting to start this new goal this year. Can you check in with me every Friday? Or is it okay? I want to start eating healthier, and to make it fun, I'm going to make these dishes really pretty and prepare them really nicely. Can I take a picture of them and send it to you? Like, your friends would adore it if they could help you out because you help them out so much. And if they don't, I'm sorry, not your friends, but they will love that because you're always helping them. And so it can be difficult again for you to ask for help, but if you do, you're going to get your results back tenfold. So that is the best for kappas. Now, also for kappas, when they get an obstacle thrown at them, that's tempting to them to bring them back to their old version. So let's say they wake up and they're feeling like, I'm feeling like a little crummy. Maybe I'm sick, but they're not really sick. They're just feeling kind of tired that morning. They're going to say, okay, I just would rather stay in bed. Or let's say a friend invites them out at night and they want to go out instead of like working on their business at home. So it's going to feel very tempting to them because that is what's safe, that's what they're used to, and that's what they've done before in the past, and it may feel more alluring to them to go back to that. So the hardest thing for kappas is to really stay strong in that discomfort and knowing that that transformation is actually what they want. And so just prepare yourself, write down all the obstacles that usually come in your way in your goals that you know, and then what is going to be your action plan of how you're going to get yourself out of it. I will say, once kappas get started, they're usually the most consistent because they love repetition and it becomes their new norm. So if you can give yourself a challenge of doing it for 30 days, or the yogic way is to do it for 41 days to really set a habit, you can, those obstacles are going to feel like nothing. You're going to be like, no, like I'm not giving up my routine. Like I love consistency. So you actually have the most advantage once you get started. You're pretty good about bulldozing like any type of obstacles. I really think this is likened to the metaphor of elephants for kappas, like how gentle elephants are and graceful, but they could literally squash you with just one little step. And that's how I see kappas really going after their goals. Okay. Now the next dosha is pitta dosha, our more fiery signs. Pittas usually have the easiest time of goal setting and finding success. I mean, this is just totally in their DNA, and this is what really drives them a lot. They have this willpower because they have this fire within them that oftentimes they don't need outside motivation. This is why pittas are really good entrepreneurs because, as you know, as an entrepreneur, you got to find that kernel of light within you to just keep going when it feels like all odds are against you. So pittas with goals, they love it. They love color coding. They know how to organize them usually. They can come up with an action plan. They're pretty good about that. The issue with pittas is that they're going to sometimes take off more than they can, bite off more than they can chew, and they take the fun out of it. Like pittas love to go to extremes where it's like, okay, we get it. We know you could do that, but at what expense? Like, is this even fun for you anymore? And why that's so important, pittas can be like, I don't care if it's not fun. It's not necessarily supposed to be. It's just not going to be sustainable. When you're creating new lifestyle and habits and goals, this is a new identity you're stepping into. So if you don't see yourself doing this for the rest of your life or a few years from now, that means that it's not going to be sustainable and you're going to eventually burn out from that goal, and then it's going to stop completely. So pittas, usually can stay with their goals past February 15th, but eventually it will come down to a point where they're just exhausted and they're just not having fun anymore, and they've really lost that zest for life. So with pittas, it's very important with your goals that you take time for rest and pauses and reward. So often pittas are doing like these crazy things and they don't take time to acknowledge themselves and be like, yeah, I did that. And especially in the beginning of your goals, when they feel like it's nothing and it feels like, well, whatever, that's like not that big of a deal. I didn't get this extreme accolade that I really want towards the end of the year. But the more that you can be really grateful for those small wins and keep a tracker, or at the end of the week, if you did everything that you wanted for that goal, then you gift yourself something with flowers or a body treatment. Any way to acknowledge your accomplishments is so important to really bring the joy back into it. And then see if you can have fun with it. Like make a game of it. It doesn't have to be so serious. I'm laughing because I relate to the pitta dosha the most, and so I've gone through so many extremes of things. When I came back from India, I kid you not, I had a 3-hour morning routine because I was like, oh my god, I have puja, which is an opening ceremony that you do every morning, and then I had my meditation, and then I had my yoga practice, and then I had all my Ayurvedic rituals that I had to do, and then honestly, it was hard to get out of bed one morning. I was like, why am I so tired? And I was like, oh, maybe I'm sick or something. And then weeks went by and I was like, I can't get out of bed any morning. And then I really thought about it. And it was like, you don't want to get out of bed any morning because you don't want to do this 3-hour routine. That's just not fun. Like just because you're checking off the boxes and you're hitting these goals and, it's not fun for you anymore. And it does get to be fun. I think it's finding a balance for pittas of like, yes, you love going towards discomfort because you know the reward that happens from that and how empowered you can feel from that. But you also need to forget, you tend to forget that it gets to be fun, it gets to be joyful, and find the play within it too. So if you can do that, let's say you're starting like a workout regime, like it doesn't have to be you doing something so awful and so treacherous. Like, yes, save that for your workouts as well, but can you wrap it also in something that's like really fun and exciting for you to go to and look forward to? And then as far as getting support and accountability for pittas, again, you're pretty good at keeping accountable yourself, but allow yourself to really see your accomplishments. If you are, you're going to be your best cheerleader. And you do well with gentle approaches. So again, all this fiery energy, you're going to be like, let's get into it. And you want to be full steam and speed ahead for the beginning of the year. But maybe you could take a step back and just really focus on a couple of things at a time and take this more gentler approach. You're going to feel results a lot faster in the long run. And then lastly, let's talk about our beautiful Vatas who get so excited at the beginning of the year. You have all these ideas, you have all these goals, and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's going to be the best year yet. You're this amazing optimist. And then all of a sudden it gets really overwhelming for Vatas, and they're like, well, how am I going to be able to do all these goals right now? Like, where do I even begin? There's so many ideas that are here right now. So my favorite thing for Vata is like, yes, it's so great that you have all these goals and these visions. Sometimes it's like you get in all these downloads at once and you're like, whoa, I do want to do all these things. So they're all right here. What do I do with this? And the thing about that is no one's saying that you have to start all those things right now. You just need to structure them and pace them in a way that's going to be fruitful for you. So the first thing that I have for Vatas is just get organized and grounded, structure everything. This is why I have a tracker inside my Your 2024 Vision Guide. This is the guide that I recommend for those who are taking my manifestation workshop to download ahead of time. There's trackers in there, and it takes you through my step-by-step process to break down, okay, how do I even know what my goals are this year? And then how can I really break it down by what goals I'm working on seasonally, monthly, daily, etc. So that's first and foremost. And the second thing for Vatas is just focus on 1 to 2 goals at a time. It is too damn overwhelming. I know you can like think new year, new you. There's so many things and opportunities that I could do and change. But what is really feasible? What is realistic? And what can you do and feel really successful in? Usually it's just focusing on 1 to 2 goals per season at a time, and that is enough. Again, I'm offering a lot more support in this in the workshop, but that is the best thing for Vatas is to ground. And then the last thing for Vatas is like, if it's not inspiring or exciting to you, you're going to be like, this is boring, and you're going to dip off. So, in whatever way you can make that goal something that really lights you up and you're really excited to do, the better. And a lot of times it's just using your creativity to make it fun. So, for example, let's say you wanted to start a new workout routine, make it a really fun one that you're excited to go to. Or let's say if you're like, okay, I actually love to do all these workout classes, like dance classes, but that's not really getting me to the goals that I want for my health right now. So maybe I'll do like 3 of these workout classes that I know are really good for my body. And then at the end of the week, I'll reward myself with a dance class that's like really fun and inspiring. You do really well with that, like gifting yourself those surprises and doing things that are exciting and inspiring to you. Okay, so those are just some of my off the cuff tips for each of the energy types. I hope it is inspiring to you to get started with your goals and how to stay consistent. Oh, I forgot to mention for Vatas, when you feel like you get off the plan. So, usually with Vatas, the reason why they dip off around February 15th, that's actually like usually the time when Vatas do, it's because they're like the Energizer Bunny. They start with so much energy and all these ideas, and then it dips off because it's unsustainable. So, if you take those steps of just focusing on a couple goals at a time, if you ground and you structure everything, and you take the time to have an action plan, you will feel more successful. All right, everyone. So if you would like more support in guiding your 2024 visions and goals, you can download the Your 2024 Vision Guide. And if you want even more support, you can download the workshop, our manifestation and goal setting workshop. The recording is now being sent out directly after you put your email with the link that I have in the show notes. That is all I have for you today. I'm so excited for you all to get started and after your goals. I cannot wait to hear all the goals that you're creating for yourself. Feel free to share with me on IG, Angelica_feminine_healer. If you love this episode, please share it with a friend or a family member who would love it too. It's how I grow this beautiful little podcast. And I would adore you if you commented, rated, and reviewed on either Apple or Spotify podcasts. It would mean the world. It takes 2 seconds and it really, really helps. Thank you all, everyone. Happy 2024, and I will see you next week.